Hello everyone, thank you for joining me. I'm Kerry. Today I'll be showing you how to make this scarf with flowers and braiding. I'll be working a knitted scarf in garter stitch to give it a bit of a different texture, but it would look just as good with a crocheted scarf. I have a pattern for my Eva scarf that would work well. I'll include a link in the description below. I've got Patons 4-ply baby yarn in white, light blue and a greyish blue for the scarf and the flowers. I've got this 3-ply baby yarn from Patons for the braiding. I've got 7mm knitting needles, a 4mm crochet hook for the flowers and a 2.5mm crochet hook for the braiding. I've got a darning needle to weave in the ends, scissors, thread and a needle to stitch it together, and I've got these blue beads to attach to the braiding. For the scarf, I've got my 3 colours of the Patons baby yarn. I'm going to knit the 3 together. I've got my pair of 7mm knitting needles. So firstly, I just tie a knot onto the knitting needle. That's my first stitch. I'm going to cast on 20 stitches, so I put my needle through the first stitch and put the yarn around my needle and bring through a loop and put it onto the needle, and I'm going to work 18 more. Yarn around the needle, bring it through and onto the needle. So I need 20 stitches on my needle. Now that's my 20 stitches. Now all our rows are going to be worked the same. We're just going to knit in plain. So we put our needle into the first stitch, yarn around the needle and bring our loop through and then slip it off the needle. So every stitch will be worked the same. Now that's the first row. So we turn it around and just Continue working like that. Now I'll continue working like that till my work measures about 4 foot, and I'll be back and I'll cast off. The scarf is 6 inches wide by almost 4 foot long, so I'll cast off now. To cast off, I knit the first 2 stitches, and then I pull the first loop over the second loop like that, and then I knit the following stitch and put the first loop over, and continue like that across the row. Now I've got 1 loop left, so I cut the yarn and pull it through the loop and pull it tight. And that's the finished scarf. I'll just weave in those ends and show you the scarf, and then we'll work the flowers. Now that's the finished scarf. I've got 2 layers for the flowers, and I'm using 2 strands for each of the layers. So for the outside of the flower, I've got 2 layers of my light blue and a 4mm crochet hook, and I start with a magic loop. There's lots of ways to make a magic loop, so make it how you feel most comfortable. I just put my hook on the yarn, bring the short end over the hook and the long end over the short end to make a circle, and then put the yarn around my hook and bring my hook with the yarn at the end through the loop, and there's my magic loop. Then I work 1 chain, and I'm going to work 10 single crochet into my circle. A single crochet is a double crochet using UK terms. For a single crochet, put your hook in through the circle and bring back a loop. Yarn around the hook and take your hook with the yarn at the end through both the loops. I need 9 more single crochet in my circle. Then I pull the circle tight, so I take hold of the tail and ease it in, and I join with a slip stitch in the top of the first stitch. That's that stitch there. So I put my hook into the stitch, bring through a loop and take it straight through the loop on the hook. For row 2, I start with 4 chain, and I'm going to work a joined treble over the same stitch as the chain and the next stitch. A treble is a double treble using UK terms. For a joined treble, put the yarn around the hook twice, hook into that same stitch as our chain and bring through a loop, yarn around the hook and take our hook with the yarn at the end through 2 loops, yarn around the hook, hook with the yarn at the end through 2 more loops. Then we put our yarn around the hook twice, hook into the next stitch and bring up a loop, yarn around the hook, hook with the yarn at the end through 2 loops, yarn around the hook, hook with the yarn at the end through 2 more loops. We've got 3 loops on the hook. We put the yarn around the hook and take our hook with the yarn at the end through all the loops. Then we work 4 chain and slip stitch in the same stitch as the last part of our joined treble. Then we work a slip stitch into the next stitch, and we'll work another petal the same as our first petal. We start with 4 chain and work a joined treble over the same stitch as our chain and the next stitch. Then work 4 chain and slip stitch in that same stitch as the last part of our joined treble, and then we slip stitch into the next stitch and work 4 chain and work a joined treble over the same stitch as our chain and the next stitch. Work 4 chain and slip stitch in that same stitch as the last part of our joined treble and slip stitch in the next stitch. Then we'll work 4 chain and work a joined treble over the same stitch as our chain and the next stitch. Work 4 chain and slip stitch in the same stitch, and then slip stitch in the next stitch, and we'll work another petal the same, 4 chain and a joined treble over the same stitch as the chain and our last stitch. Work 4 chain and slip stitch in that last stitch, and we fasten off. And that's the back part of our flower. I'll use white for my front part of the flower, the centre. So I've got 2 strands of that, and I make a magic loop. And I work 3 chain. I'm going to work a join double crochet into my circle. A double crochet is a treble using UK terms. For a join double crochet, put the yarn around the hook, hook in through the circle and bring up a loop. Yarn around the hook and take the hook with the yarn at the end through 2 loops. Then put the yarn around the hook, hook into the circle and bring up a loop. Yarn around the hook. Take your hook with the yarn at the end through 2 loops, yarn around the hook, and take the hook with the yarn at the end through the remaining 3 loops. Then work 3 chain, and that's our first petal. We're going to work 4 more petals the same. We start with 3 chain and work a join double crochet into the circle. And then 3 chain and slip stitch into the circle. Then we work 3 chain and work a join double crochet into the circle. And then work 3 chain and slip stitch into the circle. Work 3 chain and work a joined double crochet into the circle. And work 3 chain and slip stitch into the circle. And for our last petal we work 3 chain, work a join double crochet into the circle, and work 3 chain and slip stitch into the circle. Then we pull the circle tight, so we take hold of the tail and ease it in as tight as you can and fasten off. And that's the centre part of the flower. And I'll attach them to the scarf with beads. I'll weave in the ends and I'll make more flowers and I'll lay them out on the scarf, and then we'll do the chain for the braiding. The ends for the flowers are woven in and I've arranged them on the scarf. I'll pin them on but won't stitch them down until I have the braid complete and I'm happy with the design. Next I'll work the chain for the braid. I need quite a lot of chain and an even number, but because it's such a long lot of chain I don't worry about counting. I just work the first one quite loose so it can be taken out. So I work my chain and then I'm going to lay it on the scarf to see how it looks. Your chain will have to be quite a bit longer than the scarf. So I'll work my chain and lay it on the scarf and show you what it looks like. And then we'll work the rest of the braid. There's my chain set out on the scarf. I made it about 7 foot long. Now for the braid, we work a joined half double crochet over the 3rd and 4th stitches from the hook. A half double crochet is a half treble using UK terms. For a joined half double crochet, we put the yarn around the hook, hook into the third stitch from the hook and bring up a loop. Yarn around the hook, hook into the next stitch and bring up a loop, and then yarn around the hook and take our hook with the yarn at the end through all the loops. Then we work 2 chain and slip stitch in that same stitch as the last part of the joined half double crochet. Then we slip stitch into the next stitch and work 2 chain, and we work a joined half double crochet over the same stitch as the chain and the next stitch. Work 2 chain and slip stitch in the same stitch as the last part of our joined half double crochet. We slip stitch into the next stitch and work 2 chain, and we work a joined half double crochet over the same stitch as the chain and the next stitch. And then work 2 chain and slip stitch in that same stitch, and we repeat that all the way up the chain. So slip stitch into the next stitch and work 2 chain, and work a joined half double crochet over the same stitch as the chain and the next stitch. And then work 2 chain and slip stitch in the same stitch as the last part of our joined half double crochet. So I'll continue working like that till I get near the end of my chain, and I'll be back and show you how to do the corner. I have 2 stitches left. I slip stitch into the next stitch and work 2 chain and work a joined half double crochet over the same stitch as the chain and the last stitch. Then I work 2 chain and slip stitch into the last stitch and work 2 chain, and I'm going to work into the back loop of the chain down the other side. So I work a joined half double crochet over the first stitch and the next stitch and work 2 chain and slip stitch in the same stitch as the last part of the joined half double crochet and slip stitch into the next stitch and work 2 chain, and I work a joined half double crochet in the same stitch as the chain and the back loop of the next stitch and work 2 chain and slip stitch in the same stitch as the last part of the joined half double crochet, and I continue working like that until I get to the end of the row. So I'll do that and I'll be back. When you get to the beginning of the row, we fasten off, and I'll weave in the ends and I'll pin the braiding to the scarf, and I'll be back and show you how to stitch it together. Now there's the scarf all pinned together. To stitch the flowers down, I attach a bead to the centre of the flower and then I stitch through the centre of the flower, the back of the flower and the scarf, I just stitch around the centre of the flower. And then to stitch the braiding on, I'll stitch in the middle of the braiding and I'll attach a bead to about every 5th cluster. So I'll do that and I'll be back to show you the finished scarf. And there's the finished scarf. It's 6 inches wide by 4 foot long. If you've liked my video, please like, subscribe and share. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest and Twitter. The details are in the description below, along with the details of my website where I have my patterns, the details of my Facebook group and the details of my Patreon. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.